Hi, and welcome back to Katie's Corner in Space. In today's fourth installment of preparation for the upcoming Supernatural prequel spin-off, The Winchesters, it's time to talk about something that's been bothering me and many other fans. The issues the new series creates simply by its premise. It's not surprising considering the plot covers a time we already know, and in ways the characters themselves don't, as they've either not seen our perspective or by literal divine intervention.
But what about my dad?
Better than new. In fact, I'm gonna do your mom and your dad a favor.
What?
Scrub their minds. They won't remember me or you.
And while we may know the future, bleak as it may be, the issue here is their past, or perhaps just Mary's very recent past. But before I start complaining, let's just review what we know from the story told on Supernatural. Young Mary bumped into John and they started dating. I covered that in the first installment. After they'd been dating, and with her father not quite happy about the pairing, Mary makes a deal with good old Yellow Eyes, aka Azazel. This deal is only possible because Azazel shows her that both John and her father are dead, and he's going to bring back one. Just one. And she chose John. And this was all played out with Dean present in that time, so none of this is a mystery to him either when it comes to the new series players. It's important to note her mother was also killed in this episode, leaving her parentless by the hands of a demon. Something she is eminently aware of when the flashbacks occur during the Supernatural series.
You have to leave now.
Okay, just listen.
No, you listen. Last time I saw you, a demon killed my parents.
Now, when it comes to the description and the premise, what we know, what actually happened in an episode, it's all brought into question with one sentence. Though the premise itself seems rather broad, it spells out one specific and seemingly incorrect detail, along with one that can be assumed. The Winchesters will tell the epic story of how Mary and John met and put everything on the line to save not just their love, but also the world. It begins in 1972 and follows 19-year-old Mary, who has been fighting the forces of darkness since she was a child. After losing someone close to her, the hardened hunter considers quitting the family business until her father's disappearance and the arrival of a newcomer, John, forces her to lead a new team. John has recently returned from Vietnam and finds a new mission back home, where traces of his father's past lead him to a secret organization and a whole new war as a hunter. Pretty good setup, really. Quick background, basic plot line, and even a little introduction to the fuller cast. However, and this is a big however, her dad was no longer killed by a demon. He simply disappeared. That's a big change. Not only that, but the entirety of the description makes it sound as though her father disappeared at nearly the same time or even just before she meets John, which is just plain wrong. Now, I'm no stranger to a little twist on known canon. Even though I've often complained about it, I can usually set it aside and enjoy the story, as long as it's a good story. I can't even begin to list off the Trek inconsistencies.
Agreed.
But I digress. A little twist of canon is acceptable, and it happens. But she went from a dad she saw die in front of her in a rather horrendous but definitely memorable way to, oops, dad seems to have gone missing. I mean, come on, it's her dad. She'd remember. So while I know a lot of people are getting nitpicky over the timing of her and John meeting, which I'll tell you in a moment how I feel that is easily explained away, I'm really irritated by the sudden rewrite of her dad's murder by Azazel. Especially when she speaks to Dean in that second time travel episode and actually states a demon killed her father. How the frack do the writers explain that little bit away? Another memory wipe, big old bump on the head. But the meeting of John and Mary and that little rewrite, well, that's simple. Parents lie. I know this may come as a revelation until you remember that little 5 to 7 year fib about Santa. I mean, I could totally see Mary and John telling little 3-year-old Dean how they met and leaving out any demon adventures. The basic story could be whittled down to, we bumped into each other, then we had coffee. And after Mary passed, as a shared story they had told, John decided to keep it that way. Now, I rather think the John who raised Dean and Sam would have told them the truth. It's not like he'd be worried he'd scare them. But he was also a bit of a romantic when it came to the memory of Mary, so it may be just one adventure he kept to himself. Especially if the trailer is any indication. I mean, I accidentally punched your mother during an early supernatural attack probably isn't the picture you want to paint for your kids. This bit of truth, along with other revelations, I'm sure is how Dean's narration comes into play. It's possible he'll dig up other pieces of conflicted information. I mean, I still think back to when the boys were adamant vampires and werewolves were just myths.
Vampires? I thought there was no such thing.
You never even mentioned them, Dad.
I thought they were extinct.
Then not long after, they're talking about the lore of said mythical creatures, so yeah, canon isn't always followed and can often be ignored for a good story. The good news is the release is soon, and coincidentally in the monstrous month of October, the 11th at 8 p.m. to be exact. At least in my neck of the woods. You'll have to check your local listings to be sure in your area. Here, it'll be appearing on the CW. Now, if you're not quite sure on the details of these time hops I've brought up, you can watch for yourself by checking out Supernatural Episodes Season 4, Episode 3, In the Beginning, and Season 5, Episode 13, The Song Remains the Same. But if you want to check out a bit more concerning John and Mary, or the characters coming to the new series, then pop over to the playlist, which should be coming up right about now. And I'll see you there.